Welcome back to World of Warcraft Dragonflight Season 4, my friends. Yes, I have restarted my subscription because they have added about roughly 60 item levels for us to climb. So if you're a casual with an army of alts, like I have an army of alts over here, you can see that I have a lot of them to perhaps take on a little bit of a power fantasy journey and lift their item level ultimately, because that's how you become more powerful in World of Warcraft. If you are into that kind of gameplay, today I'm going to tell you what I find realistically attainable ways to raise that item level. No empty promises, no BS, just only real way to gear your character as quickly as possible, as easily as possible. Now, let's jump straight into it. Obviously, it depends on what kind of content you do. So my way might not work for you, but if you're anything like me, let's just outline a few ground rules. First of all, I don't PvP. So my sources of gear have nothing to do with PvP. I don't consider it, I don't pretend to know how to best do it weaving in PvP. It's only PvE soloable content. Primarily, I prefer soloable content, or easily queuable content is also fine. But basically consciously assemblable groups, which I do occasionally, like Mythic Plus and that kind of stuff, is at the bottom of my barrel as far as the choices are concerned, running ahead of myself. Yeah, and the final call out here is that I don't craft. I personally don't craft. I'm not saying it's a bad thing or whatever. This is probably the last thing to mention here, is that of course there are crests. You could upgrade your lowest item level 415 right now if you wanted to. My characters essentially are all stuck around item level 430, 435. There are some lower even. There are some alts that are rather green alts, let's call them, and they're not even in item level 400s yet. What I think is important for us to do is to set a realistic goal. Get to the awakened LFR raids. You know how they added awakened LFR raids? It's the ones that are giving substantially better rewards for queuable experience. To get to LFR, you need to get to item level 463. That seems right now to your green alts, like at first when I looked at this requirement to get into awakened raids, I was like, wow, that's high. But I'll show you how to do it relatively quickly. And then once you're there, once you entered the raids, the gameplay loop is very simple because I have an army of alts. I play a little bit with LFR. I get my favorite alts, like pseudo mains if you like. I get them to about item level 480, maybe pushing 485, 490 if I will spend more time. I haven't done it yet, obviously. That's it. That's realistically attainable. Time walking event has always been, in my opinion, the best way to quickly get reasonable gear, not great, but reasonable gear for a completely fresh alt, in my opinion. Because a lot of people are running time walking dungeons. Time walking dungeons are easy, they are fast, and they also have a reward from a quest in Valdrakken that gives you even a massively higher item level piece, something in the ballpark of 495, which is crazy for a green alt, isn't it? So, time walking, we will start with the vendor. It's the vendor that this time around, when I'm recording this, is in Shatra. This vendor is selling really crappy gear, let's be honest, really crappy gear, but it's still 450. And for your alt right now, who is in 430, that's something that still pushes your item level a bit higher. So if you have some of the currency available for time walking vendor, and if you really feel like boosting that item level straight up a little bit, I think it's a bit of a waste, to be honest with you, but if you feel like it, you could use and buy some gears and fill in some slots, maybe with the lowest items that you have, if the vendor has those items, obviously, with the 450 time walking vendor gear. It's barely worth it, but maybe it is. Now, honorable mention, but also not something that I would waste my time on unless it's ridiculously convenient for you. You are simply there in the world somewhere. It's just on your way to your favorite fishing spot. I don't know. It is any basically green world quest gear that comes your way. You look on the map and there is a green world quest happening. Because by my kind of experience recently, I'm seeing that green World Quest gear ranges anywhere between 454 and 457. Now, any BOA bind on account dream bound gear that you may have found early in the game, continue finding through dream surge zones or whatever. I don't recommend that you farm them, by the way, it's a waste of your time right now. But if you have some of that gear already in your bank, on your alts or whatever, it used to be, if I'm not mistaken, before this season 4 started, it used to be item level 415. 415 is nothing right now, okay? So it has been conveniently converted to 454 as well, to the base level of World Quest green gear. So if you have those tokens, you can also just as easily convert them to that little quick boost of your item level that is not going to get you to LFR, but is going to move you a bit closer. Now, we're coming to my favorite option, bear with me, and it is follower dungeon. Follower dungeons are fantastic, underrated in my humble opinion, underrated method of both gearing as well as learning the class, spec, specific role, whatnot, you name it. I love follower dungeons. I actually do. In this case, believe it or not, follower dungeons are giving you normal dungeon item level gear that has been boosted to 460. 460 is already something, something reasonable, something that is very much there, almost awakened LFR entry level, yeah? And it is easy as hell, because dungeons are easy. As a solid DPS, such as an okay Retribution Paladin, but I mowed them down as a Retribution Paladin there in those dungeons. I was averaging 100,000 DPS in those dungeons, okay? And for 460 gear from follower dungeons, targetable. So for example, if you want a trinket, you take a look in the adventure guide which bosses drop a trinket. Let me go there, let me just hit that boss and leave the group straight after the boss has not given me, and re-enter and go again. So you can farm follower dungeons repeatably to get the right gear. That's how I, by the way, spoiler alert, running ahead of myself, filled out, I don't know, maybe 50% of the slots that required a targetable specific item that I didn't have, okay? Now, before you ask me and before you tell me, Gyro, but why not just queue for heroics, or why not just queue for mythics for that matter? Because it's time consuming, my friends, and because it involves people. And people are schmeeple generally, yeah? Just simply because their experience is unpredictable. If you don't have a few buddies or a guild that runs you through, which we're not even considering here as an option, because I said I play solo and a lot of us play solo, we cannot rely on them, on the mercy of RNG to be in your favor, that they run you through and you got everything. Come on, man. The only benefit of the dungeons that are filled with actual real people is if you're lucky with getting with good people, and if those people will also share some of their drops with you. You can ask them for drops. Of course, I know of those methods too, but that is social element of it. And if you want to avoid social element or be completely independent, follower dungeons crap all over that possibility. They just simply are much better and much more efficient. Follower dungeons, go for it. Now back to time walking. So if time walking is still running the time walking dungeon is actually a much faster experience than running a heroic dungeon. Even right now in the game, I tried both, of course. And time walking gear dropping in the dungeon as opposed to from a vendor is item level 467. 467, if you got a few pieces, preferably as many as you can, as well as then augmented the gaps, the missing gaps with a little bit of gear for 460 item level from follower dungeons, that's it. You will cross over into that first initial goal of ours to get to awakened LFR of item level 463. So time warped gear from time walking dungeons is great. In my opinion, running of those dungeons is smooth as butter, very easy as a tank, slightly longer queue as a DPS, very easy as a healer. You can practically sleep through them, and that's about it. And once again, like I mentioned to you, the time walking quest reward for completing 4 or 5, I can't remember anymore, time walking dungeons gives you either item level 493 or 496 or something. I think mine proc to 496 at the very least, reward of time walking quest. So that's fantastic. This journey very simply takes you to the LFR. Then you are in LFR land, my friend, or basically in the item level ballpark that allows you to make a further choice. If you prefer now, at that point in time, around, 463, 465, something like this, if you prefer now to try your luck queuing for actually Mythic Plus dungeons, try to assemble your own groups, Bob's your uncle, that's your end game loop as a casual. For me, like I already mentioned to you, that's when I start farming LFR or switch to another alt. And that's it, my friends. That's the no BS way to take you, first of all, to the platform and mechanism, which is LFR in this case, awakened LFR, that then in turn gives you a longer term gameplay loop that will give your alt item level 480 to 490 if you stick with it. I never stick with it because I have interest in many classes, in many other specs, so I will just not continue farming one of those alts until I scraped every boss imaginable of LFR. That's not fun for me. But that's what I have to share with you today, my friends. You tell me if it was helpful, and you tell me what have I missed here as far as soloable or easily queuable experience in World of Warcraft in terms of gearing in Season 4 is concerned. What am I not seeing? And is this what you're doing? Do you use follower dungeons? Do you stick to time walking? Do you do actually heroic after heroic after heroic? You're a very patient play if that's what you do, my friend. Talk to me in the comments down below. World of Warcraft has kind of revived a little bit, which always happens in spikes with these seasons and patches coming. I'm very much looking forward to the patch 10.2.7, which is going to be that panda thing, the leveling of pandas and stuff. Not pandas, just pandas, but we'll talk about this when it happens. I'm all about alts, as you can see, and with the alt-friendly very much patch coming up that everyone is praising right now, other creators who have tried it on alpha and whatever other servers, everyone is saying it's fantastic, so something to look forward to us for. So enjoy the game. I hope this is helpful. If it is, don't leave without leaving me a quick like. Takes you only 1 second. Takes me a lot longer to put this together and prioritize this content for you as well. And I'll talk to you next time about something either patch 10.2.7 related, hopefully in very near future, or about something else gaming related. I'll talk to you soon. Check out Firebox, our lovely sponsors, in the description, and for a discount to get yourself some nice gear, not just in the game, but in the real life as well. Talk to you soon. Goodbye for now.